We take you back to Cape Town now, where SABC News reporter Abra Barbiers is joining us live outside the Cape Town City Hall as she continues to hear expectations for Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's medium-term budget policy statement. Abra, who have you got with you now?
Now, lady, I have politicians back to back. I wish they would always be so eager to answer their phones and talk to me. No, I'm joking. I have with me Steve Swart of the ACDP, who always answers his phone. Mr. Swart, from what I heard yesterday, what you were saying in the message that you sent me, you also are concerned about the prospects that's very, very bleak this year. And I also asked you earlier on, what is different to what happened to last year? Is there any more room for growth? Is there any room for us to be excited?
Well, what happened last year was that there was 100 billion rand extra collected through commodity exports. Now that we don't have this year due to challenges both with Eskom load shedding and mainly with Transnet logistics. So what we are expecting is a tax deficit increased above what was forecast in February of about 50 billion rand. And that is significant because that money needs to be found somewhere. In addition to that, there are additional items that have to be budgeted for from an expenditure perspective, which is also deeply concerning. First of all, the public sector wage bill came in much higher than forecast. It was forecast at 1.6%, came in at 7.5%, and that means an extra 35 billion rand that must be found. And of course, the social relief of distress grant, which was going to come to an end at March, we're expecting that to be continued with, and that extra funding has to be found. So where does one find this extra funding? And this obviously is a concern to us because the budget deficit, if you leave it as it is, then you've got to borrow more money to pay that. And the rent costs obviously then crowd out expenditure on fighting crime, on hospitals and education. What we also say from the ACDP side is two things. There's a tax gap. There's about 300 billion rand tax that is owed that isn't collected. If 10% of that is collected, that's an extra 30 billion rand. Secondly, we've always said the tens of billions of rands that were stolen through state capture and corruption can be collected, and that can go towards balancing the books. But we are expecting an increased budget deficit today. We are expecting increased borrowings, and that places more pressure on the fiscus and of course on all of us that have to then service that increased budget deficit and government debt levels.